Hi, I'm Adam from Watford Opinions, and I am here to discuss why the 4-3-3 is the formation Watford have to stick with for the future, and why it works so well against Bristol City, and why it would have worked better against other teams as well. So, just as a general overview of the 4-3-3, it's not that complicated, just on the simplistic level of four defenders, mainly flat, three midfielders. This can be played around with, which we'll get to later, and then one left winger, one right winger, and one striker. This can also be played as a false nine, but for the sake of what Watford were doing, this is pretty much how it lined up, with Cleverley sometimes getting a bit more attacking license to play up here. But the main reason the 4-3-3 for Watford especially is better than the 4-4-2, 3-5-2, all of the other formations Watford tried this season, is the focus on the wing play. Now, in the 4-4-2, for example, the left and right wide players, even though they're technically can be considered wingers, they still have to act as midfielders, so their starting position needs to be a bit dropped back. Otherwise, Watford will be able to be countered on the wings, and there'll be overloads on the wings for the opposition. And as well as the 4-4-2, if the wingers are high up, then the midfield, you only have two men in the midfield. So defensively, it leaves you very shorthanded if the wide players are playing as wingers in a 4-4-2. But then if they're doing their defensive duties, you don't really have an attacking outlet. And considering Watford's wingers, Sema, Sarr, Zinkernagel, when he's going to be able to come in, even though we haven't seen him there yet, Watford's wide play is where they're going to score most of the goals from. That's the strong suit, especially with Sarr and Sema, as I've just said. But the previous formations, it wasn't really catering to their needs. They weren't getting as much attacking license as they expected. So that brings us to the Bristol City match, where they got their attacking license, both scored twice. Sarr got two more assists. So the 4-3-3, it allowed them their attacking license. And just to talk about the midfield before I go on in depth about the Bristol City match, is the midfield. You have three midfielders in the middle of the pitch. You're not going to really lose control of the midfield. We have Chalobah, Gosling, Cleverley, Hughes. The midfield three is not going to really be overrun by any other midfield in the championship. And then the back four is a pretty standard back four. The wide players, they actually do get a bit of attacking license, even though they're not technically wingbacks, because there's the three here. You still have a solid defensive block if one decides to commit a bit further forward. But now to move on to the Bristol City match, which is a good match to follow up the Coventry City match, tactically speaking, because both teams were very similar. Bristol City, they tried to do a 3-5-2. To be honest, it was pretty disjointed most of the match because they were always trying to catch up and getting dismantled. But Coventry City also played in a similar formation. And when we did the 4-4-2, it didn't work because with the 4-3-3, you have they were matching up against the 3 of 5, something like this, and then the 2 up top. So those are the little dots. They're not the best drawn in, but with the 3-5-2, when you're doing the 4-3-3, for example, there's really not much room for them to get attacking play unless they're getting you on the counter attack, because defensively, they're going to need their wingbacks to drop back to deal with the attacking three. Otherwise, the center backs are just going to be too stretched, which we did see many times, especially when Cleverley, for the second goal, made the run forward. There was already an outnumbering with the three wide players pushing forward, the three attacking players pushing forward. So there was an outnumbering because the wingbacks didn't drop back. Cleverley was able to run in and assist Sarr, who was making the run. So that's why this really works against the 3-5-2, whereas when Watford did the 4-4-2 against Coventry's, it was the 3-5-2, 3-4-1-1. Not 3-4-1-1, 3-5-1-1. It was a very similar setup to what Bristol City were trying to do. But since Watford were doing the 4-4-2, as you can see, the other team, Watford were doing a 4-2-3-1, but Deeney still wasn't doing his midfield duties, to be honest. He was still kind of acting as if it was a 4-4-2. As you can see, in the 3-5-2, or the similar formations, the other team's going to have the midfield overload. Like Gustavo Hamer, for example, for Coventry City, was absolutely bossing the midfield over Watford. But now, since Watford nullified that with the three central midfielders, that issue is not going to be something that's faced anymore. So, just to sum it all up, the 4-3-3, it gives Watford midfield control. The wingers can act as wingers. And now, for the final point, the striker, it's always going to be the big question. It's always going to be, is Dini going to start? Is it going to be Pedro? Because Pedro did phenomenally. But then again, it's hard to see Dini not getting any action at all. I really doubt and really hope Xisco doesn't go back to the 4-4-2, especially seeing how well the 4-3-3 worked and how well it just gets all phases of play balanced. But Xisco did mention he wants Dini playing further forward. In a 4-4-2, that's not really desirable because Dini's a bit more creative these days, it seems, when he's dropping back. But in a 4-3-3, I do feel Dini can do well as long as it doesn't encourage Watford to play hoofball. If Dini does hold a higher starting position, then the wing players, they'll be able to make those runs and then find Dini in the middle. So I don't, and Dini's definitely a better aerial target than Pedro. So I don't think Dini won't thrive in this formation, but I hope it doesn't encourage the squad to play hoofball either. So yeah, the 4-3-3, it really does need to be stuck with, because if you even other formations you go up against, if Watford go up against another 4-3-3, then still it's that basically cancels it out. I mean, you got let's just say they go up against another 4-3-3, because I've already discussed Watford going against a team with honestly, the main focus is the three central midfielders, I feel, in terms of being able to maintain control of the match. But let's say, because I've already talked about Watford going against three central midfielders while only having two, so I don't need to talk about the other way when other teams have two midfielders going against Watford's midfield three, because Watford are going to dominate the midfield if the other team have fewer central midfielders, just by the nature of how good Watford's midfielders are. And if you control the midfield, you're going to control all phases of play. The wingers are going to be able to release. All falls into place there. But if Watford do go up against another 4-4-3, I mean, it's not hard to see. It's like the pitch is going to be very nullified. I mean, the lineups are the same, but this is when it's going to come to a matter of class versus class in a midfield of Hughes, Cleverley, Chalobah, Hughes, Cleverley, Gosling, any permutation of the combination of those. I don't really see many other midfields in the Championship being able to overcome that. And again, the wide players are going to be able to be released, and it's optimal. And the one last little adjustment Watford can make with the 4-3-3, which I touched on before, is the middle here. It could be anyone. They do get a bit more attacking license, and you could almost play it as a triangle in the midfield, where you have the four. It's not a 4-2-3-1 like before, but you still give the one midfielder more attacking license, which we saw Cleverley do a lot. And this is a role I think Zinkernagel would thrive in, because we do see Xisco playing Zinkernagel in the midfield a lot. And a flat midfield three does not suit Zinkernagel's strengths at all. But if you're doing a 4-2-1-3, it's still a 4-3-3, 4-3-3 with a triangle and two holding midfielders. If you have Zinkernagel at the attacking midfield position, he can push up like we saw Cleverley doing, and that's going to be the position Zinkernagel will have to thrive in if Samuel Sarr's form doesn't drop, because I don't see Samuel Sarr being dropped for Zinkernagel, even if Zinkernagel is that good, because Sarr and Sema don't deserve to be dropped right now. So this is the position I wouldn't be surprised to see Zinkernagel playing in more. And yes, it does kind of look like a 4-2-3-1. You could argue it is, but the wide play, as long as these midfielders stay as a holding midfielders, these players won't lose their attacking wide license. And those are the two most important things: midfield control and the wide players truly having attacking license with no real repercussions if they keep their high position for the entire match. So yeah, that's why the 4-3-3 needs to be stuck with, and why it's the best formation for Watford. Thank you.